Now, session 2. Now we've decided as a career, as at a job, kind of went through, embracing this as or taking this on as a new career. Now we need to embrace it. So today's agenda, apply the 6 core competencies of a business, recognize your role as a fiduciary for your clients, and then we'll get through the daily successes. Again, going back to our 6 core things we need to be working on. What's number 1? Lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments. That's number 1 because nothing else after it matters if we can do that. And notice that it adds convert to appointments. So just meeting and talking with people is one thing. And after people get kind of used to talking to people, what I start seeing is they do a great job connecting with them, do a great job talking to them. So they do that first 80% really well. That last 20% is asking for the appointment. And then they freeze up when it gets to that point. We have to be bold enough to ask for that appointment. Otherwise, we're just having great conversations that are leading nowhere. Our clients generally won't ask us for a meeting. Once they get to know you, like the Timber Ridge people, they called me, I stay in touch with them. They called me like, it's ready, it's time to move. Let's go. Awesome. What are we looking for? If you build up that kind of relationship, you will get those calls. But that takes about 3 or 5 years of doing the hard stuff now. That will get you there. Down the road in Ignite, we're going to talk about presenting to buyers and sellers and getting an agreement signed and showing buyers and market sellers. Write and negotiate contracts, coordinate the sale to closing, and manage the money. I really think that should be 1B. Because you should be managing, even though right now there's not much coming in or going out. That, to me, that should not be wait till step 6, but that should be something you're doing all the way through.
Doing with the buyer, do you take your buyer's agreement that first time, that first week?
Should, the earlier you sign it, the better. And I'm gonna pick on our situation we had about 2 years ago. We waited till we'd show this guy a few houses over a period of time, and then it was in with the purchase agreement packet. Even though we explained to him that it was coming and talked to him, he felt a certain way about that being added in late. To me, in the first meeting or 2, you should be presenting the buyer agency agreement. Then it gets to, again, what's your value? Why are we asking for this to be signed?
You have a lot of clients that push back on that, but
But once you explain it, so it's like, hey, we're gonna spend a lot of time working together, making sure we find you the perfect home. This just ensures we're dedicated to working with each other. What that shows you is if they refuse to sell it even after that, now we're getting into, okay, is this a client I necessarily want to waste time with? Because some clients feel like, hey, if I have 5 agents working for me, I get 500% effort. It's like, well, no, you probably don't.
Yeah, I would say, I want to know why.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean, why are you pushing back? It would be, listen, after we look at a few houses, or we get to know, we are feel comfortable. Can we agree that we make a commitment at that time? Because if, like you were touching on, the concern here is they're just bouncing money. I'm using you because I think I'm gonna get, let's see if the 4 or 5, and maybe we'll get lucky, but I just want to know what I'm getting into. And I might still work with you, I'm not willing to sign it, but I would just try to dig deeper and figure out what the motive is, because they may just tell you, listen, I'm not committing to anyone, I'm gonna work with, anyone, or my niece is a realtor. And just whatever it might be, I try to find out. You may want to say it fine when you find out quickly, and you want to have.
Right.
yeah.
So it also might save them from walking away, finding out they just want to get to know you a little bit. They might say, yes, just give me a little time here, let's get to know each other, I wanna see if you follow up with me, or whatever, and then all of a sudden you think, gee, I'm glad I didn't walk away from them, because they'll commit in a couple weeks or in a month.
Goes to the middle row on the far right side, seek first to understand, right? So you're trying to get into their minds. So investors are notoriously loyal, if you will, the agents. They just feel like if I got everybody out there looking. And one of the guys I work with, you know, we've done quite a few deals now. I had a package of properties about 2017, 2018, and he called me on that package of properties. I was one of 5 agents he works with, and he still uses other agents, but I'm kind of his first go-to. If he wants to list something, I'm his first call. If he wants to go see something, I'm his first call. So I like earn my way, but I was like, new enough in the business at that point. It's like, I'll roll the dice. You know, they're not gonna be big commissions. But what I learned very quickly about working with them, it's like, he's a contractor. So we're in a house for 15 minutes and he's already made a decision if he's buying it or not. And by and large, he buys everything we go see because he's done his homework ahead of time. He's very educated on the market, like what he can get on rents from different places. Has about 70 some rentals. So he's kind of got houses everywhere around town. So he knows about every area of town. So I'm like, he won't sign one, but I'm like, it's worth it, you know, there's enough deals there that I may not be his first call, but I'm willing to roll. I think to James' point, even if they won't sign it up front, at least bring it to their attention, you want it signed. Because you don't want to feel like 3 months into this, now you're questioning them, you know, so you may as well bring it up first, and then it just builds that expectation. So lead generating to capture and convert to appointments. This ties back to our class last week. This can be, I gave out a sheet at that class. I probably should have printed it for today. About 150 ways to prospect. It was just something to get you thinking. Like, oh, this would be really slick to try this, or hey, this is a creative way to go meet people. This is how you feed your lead generation funnel. Find 2 or 3 methods that you want to try. Could be social media ads, could be hosting events, could be participating in existing events, could be utilizing your current job to meet people. I mean, it could be so many different things. But you want to be out there meeting as many people as possible. Then more importantly, capturing their information. So we're talking about open houses. So you might meet a lot of people there, but let's say 5 people actually gave you their information. Well, that's 5 people. So now what do we do with them? Our goal is to convert them to some type of appointment. Well, we talk about this with open houses a lot. It's like, this is why homework's so important. Because obviously they're interested in buying and or selling real estate in one way, shape, or form, because they're out of that house for some reason, even if it's a nosy neighbor. Might be somebody that's lived in that neighborhood for 15 years and they're like, they're selling this house for what? And they get that. Maybe that's enough of a nudge to, hey, maybe I should think about something. Well, if you're their first agent they've thought about, and talk to them. Again, because being first matters. But it's being bold enough to ask for that appointment. You hear them like, well, if they sell for that, I may be considering selling. You just be like, oh, that's great. Well, call me if you decide to. Or are you like, well, let's sit down this week. Let's go through your home. I might be able to give you some tips and tricks to really maximize your value if you do decide to sell. And we can do a market evaluation on their home, and that way you got all the information to make an informed decision. What would be a good day this week for us to sit down? It's got to be bold enough to ask. You just did this at an open house. You're like, hey, let's go see some other houses if this isn't the one. And you went and showed them houses. That took you being bold enough to say that. Because they're going to go see those houses with or without you. So it's better with you, right? As opposed to without you.
I like when they ask, are they doing an open house over there too? Oh, no, they're not. I can take the time to show you myself. So like that, and it works too. We go check it out.
I will be when I open the door for you. It won't be an open house. So present the buyers and sellers. Again, we always think about giving buyers or sellers presentation, not necessarily buyers. But no matter the type of clients, we have to be prepared to present to them on their terms. They're not always gonna bend over backwards to suit us. So we need to be prepared for these face-to-face, sit-down meetings. Especially as buyers, we need to be prepared to meet them out at the house for the first time. And have these kind of meetings there. Might be over Zoom, might be over phone calls. We need to be prepared any which way. 'Cause they may want to meet you virtually before, especially a seller, before they invite you into their home. Great, so like to James's point, you might have to earn their trust a little bit. And we, I think, could all understand that. We're not going to just invite any Joe Schmo into the house. Show buyers and market sellers. So real estate 101, we were talking about all the tools and tricks that, I don't have the calendar with me, I forget what day of the week that is, but we're going to be doing a real estate 201. That's where we're actually going to go out to homes and go over what we should be looking for in homes, whether we're hosting an open house for somebody, showing a buyer a house, doing a listing presentation, and things like that. But this is something you guys can do now. You got access to showing time. And do you guys do showing time over in your market? Cause you're, I forget where you're from.
I'm from
Columbia City. So yeah, you guys are still showing time. Like, but you want to be able to go practice, take a friend of yours and just schedule yourself with some showings. And go practice. What do you want that experience for your buyers to be like? Again, they can see that it's a 3-bedroom house on any website that shows information about houses. They can see all the past sales history. They can see what the house is listed for. That's not an experience. But hey, does that furnace look older to you? Like learn what the different types of heating systems are. There's some cracking around doors and window frames. That's interesting. No, these floors feel a little unlevel. We're walking around the outside of the house, you see a big crack in the foundation, that could be a concern. Yeah, we're not trying to scare our clients, but we're also trying to save them money.
I was doing some showings last week. Is Century Key and Century Lock the same? Okay, that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
I couldn't get in one, but I didn't know if it was Century Key or Century Lock.
Yep, same thing. Now, down like in around Indianapolis, I've been showing houses down there and they use a system called Broker Bay as opposed to showing time. They have a master lock system, which is actually, it's way easier. I have to just call and get 1-day codes because I don't want to pay for dues down there yet. But think about everything we do as an experience, especially with buyers, but even when we're presenting sellers, again, it should be an experience to work with you. So don't be afraid to schedule showings now. Either show the house to yourself and in your mind, kind of walk through, okay, we get to the house, what am I bringing with me? What do I want that client to walk away from the showing feeling? But the big thing at the end of every showing, what should we be asking them?
What to do with the house?
What did you love about the house? And is there something about it that you feel that they have that you really want? Why should we ask that?
Like our survey do.
Yeah, I can narrow down like what they're really looking for. Sometimes they say one thing might mean another.
Mhm.
And then you just get a better understanding of like.
So, yeah, exactly, right? Because especially first-time home buyers, they feel like, hey, I want a ranch or 3-bed, 2-bath, like 1,400 square feet. You show them 4 houses at 1,400 square feet and every single one, they're like too small, too small, too small. It's like, well, okay. Well, again, we're not trying to make them feel bad, just be, hey, just an observation here. Like every time we see one right around the 1,400 to 1,500 square foot range, it feels a little too small for you guys. So what if we up our minimum to 1,700 square feet? Would that be okay with you? And also pay attention to what they're sending you. Because maybe we haven't even gone out to see them yet, but everything they send you, they tell you the 3-bed ranch, but everything they send you is 2-story. Okay, well, I'm noticing a lot of 2 stories coming through. Should I update my search that I send you? Because again, if you're not sending them the right stuff, somebody else will. So with all that said, you know, it's not being pushy if you're trying to help them as much as possible. Cause some of our agents will say, well, I don't wanna say that to them because I don't want them to feel bad. It's like, no, 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 you're just trying to get into the same mindset as they are. Rocky up in South Bend, he almost tries talking his clients out of buying houses if it doesn't match what they've talked about. It's like, well, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we talked about you really needed a 3rd-car garage. This is a great house, but it only has a 2-car garage, so why are we spending time seeing it? Like, are we updating our search? You know, like he's trying to make sure before he wastes his time or their time, or they end up buying a house they regret, that he's pointing out like, hey, we talked about these things being important. So don't be afraid to be that bold, but it's getting to know your clients at a deeper level where you can have those conversations where they'll be more receptive. This goes all the way back to our first slide about being an expert. We're just filling out the blanks on a purchase agreement. We're just opening the lockbox and like, good luck in there. That's not an experience. Anybody can do that. What are you going to do at the showings to make it an experience? What information are you going to bring? What are you going to point out? If you know your clients from these conversations really like trails, biking, canoeing, things like that, maybe you find houses and you can take that research a step further, like, hey, the Puffer Belly Trail is not far from here, and at Matea Park, you can go take your kayak and drop it in and all the stuff. Now you're taking it a step further. You could bring that information to showings. You know, fourwaytrails.org, it's got all the trail maps and Allen County trails and write and negotiate contracts. Please do not skip over boxes and lines, even if they don't apply, put NA to show that you at least acknowledge them. We get so many contracts that are half filled out. All those things that you don't acknowledge or you accidentally skip. And this is why the folks I coach, I want to see every contract that comes in and goes out. I want to make sure we're on the same page. It's not that I don't trust the people I coach, but it's like, there's so many tiny checkboxes. It's so easy to skip over one, and they all change the tone of the contract. The taxes would be a big one. Let's say it's a nicer home. And the other agent, maybe even not even knowing me, pick the one where your clients are paying for all the taxes, as opposed to splitting the taxes. That could be a $2,000 or $3,000 switch. What, and this is a big one. So on the first page, right in the middle, what stays with the house? My sellers don't want to leave the washer dryer. Your people want the washer dryer, so you ask for it. You put it in that section. I take it to my seller. I don't even pay attention to that. We get the day before closing. She's already in California with her washer dryer. You go for the walkthrough, you're like, where's my washer dryer? I look back at the contract, I'm like, looks like I just bought a washer dryer. I bought a house full of curtains because I forgot. You know, there probably every agent in this office, there's been something like that. But it can get very costly very quick. We had an agent and it was one of our people at the office. I had the listing, she brought the buyer, she forgot to ask for closing costs. 3 days before closing, when they got the statement, they saw there was nothing about closing costs. She called and said, what the sellers pay for it. Like, I would bet you good money the answer will be no. I was like, I'll ask. So I think after, this was almost a $400,000 house, splitting the commission evenly. I think she walked away at like $250.
Oh, no.
So she did all that work. I mean, the only way for it.
Do you legally have to fix your mistake? Or
You don't.
is it just, so you're not a horrible,
That's the more thing, yeah. Because the clients could actually come after her they paid for it, because the deal could fall apart. They had to have closing costs to close the deal. It's 3 days before, so we could go after her clients for time off the market and things like that. And her clients could come after her because they spent money on an appraisal, inspection and all this. So it's like, it's just in good faith of like, I made the mistake here. Like on the curtain deal, like we saw 5 houses that day. It was the first house we saw, we ended up writing the offer. I forgot they even said we want all the window treatments. I wrote it, we didn't catch it, we did the walkthrough. And went to, it was the night before closing, curtains were all gone, people were on their way to Florida, they were moving. And they went and signed the night before they left town, or the day before. So I was like, here's $700. It was my mistake. As soon as they brought it up, like everything came like flashing. I was like, yeah. So I was like, I mean, I called and asked, and she's like, well, it's one already on a truck like halfway to Florida by now. But even if so, I mean, it wasn't part of the deal, but no problem. It's like, I was just asking. So here's $700. You guys get to go pick your own style stuff now. It'll happen. I mean, we're not perfect. But understanding each of those check boxes is very vital. And again, a lot of times it's not nefarious. Sometimes they're people trying to slide one by. But we should be paying attention because it changes the tone of the contract and what the dollars and cents will look like. And those are all, every line and checkbox on there's a negotiation. That's why they're able to be filled out. And the big thing is not everybody does it the same way. So like closing costs is like line 68 and 69-ish, somewhere right about there in the purchase agreement. Some people won't put it there, they'll put it at the very end in further conditions. Some people will put it on an addendum to the purchase agreement. So it's like, you gotta make sure you look at every single attachment that comes through the email. To make sure that you understand what's being asked for. And come to Lee's contracts class, please. He does them every Wednesday. And every, not with the holidays, so we're getting back up, yeah. But every week's a different topic throughout the course of the month. 1 week will be purchase stuff, 1 week will be seller stuff, some weeks will be inspection. On the training calendar, it'll tell you what the topic will be. But we have to understand, I mean, this is a contracts business. Coordinate the sale to closing, and I contend this will still be kind of what we forecasted at the end of last year. The last 2 or 3 years, the hard part was getting a client under contract. I really think this year, the tough part's gonna be keeping them under contract. We've seen more mutual releases in the last 90 days, 120 days than we've seen in a long time.
Why is that? Cause no one's purchasing the home and then it expires and.
Buyers just having a shorter fuse, like they're willing to walk away quicker than they've had in a while. I mean, 2021, 2022, I mean, the house could be leaning, and they're like, good enough. Now it's like, that outlet cover looks a little wonky. They're gonna walk away. You know, I mean, they've almost gone complete 180 degrees the opposite direction. So again, this is where understanding them, what they're willing to put up with, and knowing how to tour the home with them, so you got that understanding. So, and then manage the money. That's in each transaction, that's your business as a whole. So, you know, for a $200,000 listing, how much are you willing to invest in marketing, for instance? That's probably gonna be different from a $1.5 million house, right? You're gonna have to market that in a lot more spots. Like Scott Presser has a $1.something million lake listing on James. Well, the buyer may not be right around there. So he's advertising it in Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, and Indianapolis, I think. Because it could be an executive from there. You know, 4-hour drive, you're there, lake house away. Mindset matters. There's a reason we teach, we think we're teaching it twice this year, 6 personal perspectives. And inside of that, we cover all these core competencies, and we cover them in a lot of the trainings. Gotta do them well. So this is one thing you'll remember from real estate school. Functionary versus fiduciary. You want to be the fiduciary. This is you being an expert in real estate. This is you really understanding the business at a high level. This is you really making sure your client gets the best shape possible. This is how you earn repeat business. This is where when you see people leave reviews for their agents, that they're like, they knocked their socks off with this. This was an amazing deal. They went above and beyond. Um, what I would say with this, you're also managing your client's money. This may be why this is back here. But going to the fiduciary, there's an app called Agent One, and it's through different title companies like Centurion or Fidelity. It'll allow you to create what we call like a net sheet for your seller. So if I was gonna list your house, I could say, how much do you roughly owe on it? And in this app, it'll calculate kind of all the dollars and cents and give me a good estimate and a fairly accurate one. At the end of this deal, all things considered, you're gonna walk away with $154,000.
What's the same category?
I'll send it to you.
Talk about the monthly, ability too on there.
Yeah, yeah, so you can calculate buyer payments and things like this, so it's a very useful app. So I'm not quite sure why they put this back here, but my assumption on managing money is making sure your clients, before they do anything, understand the dollars and cents of what's coming in and going out. And that's really important for your buyers as well, because that down payment, understanding what that looks like, okay, make sure you pay X down. Well, I can't really afford that. Okay, well, what if we cover 3,000 of that with closing cost assistance from the seller? And then we'll be good. Okay, great, that'd work out. Then we can go back, recalculate the numbers and like, hey, this is what it'll look like. Or hey, what if we negotiated 10,000 off the purchase price? What does that payment? So it's a very helpful app. Because before, again, we're talking about lots of money. We want to make sure our clients understand all the ins and outs before they put their signature on any document.
What's that app from?
The Agent One, I'll send it to you as well. So there's a free version, but for like $10 a year, there's an upgraded version that has like a marketing tool thing in there. Actually, since we're talking about it, I'll just put it up here. Then we do cover this app in the real estate 101 as well. So it defaults, so you can see at the bottom, it says buyer seller calculator. And then premium, if you have the premium version, that $10 a year, there's a whole marketing package in here. But let's say I'm selling the house and see in the top left corner, I can actually put the address in there so it gets the taxes as accurately as possible. I'm just gonna pick on Timber Ridge here. So estimated property tax, it's a direct connection to the county tax site. And interest rate, I'll leave blank. So let's just say I'm sitting down, listing appointment. We talk about selling it for 400. Conventional loan, I'm charging 6% as the broker. Property taxes will leave there. Let's just say they owe 127,000 on the loan. Their interest rate, because again, the longer it goes on. So let's say they bought in when the time was good. So 3.625. And we close in 30 days time. So I'm gonna hit compute. So here's a nice breakdown. So at the end of the deal, they're gonna walk away 243,565. Based on this sales price, closing costs, so you can see in the bottom right corner, I can see the detailed closing cost. So if they want to know what that closing cost, majority of it's gonna be your commission. But here's what's really nice. Again, it's about creating that experience, right? So I'm gonna hit send full report. This is the nice thing with the premium version. It's gonna put together a nice deal you can send to them as a PDF. Headshot, all your information at the bottom, and I know it's really hard to see on here, but best I can do, but it gives you that breakdown. So this is a nice thing, and then right from here, I can text it to somebody, email to them, whatever it is, or ahead of time, if I have this information, I could print this out, put it in my listing presentation. Well, let's just say that buyer wants to net 314,000 just to make up an odd number. So right here under calculator, sell to net. And put in the address. So what they want in that, so they want to walk away at 314. They owe 127. Get same interest rate, hit compute. So I'm going to need to list it for $476,000. So I can do this right in the listing appointment. So they want a net X, Y, or Z. We can keep messing with the numbers to make sure what's feasible. This generates a whole conversation around what's being reasonable and what's not. This is a very valuable tool as we're talking about all these things and being a true fiduciary for our client. And so as we wrap up today, we can just back up here. I don't know why the TVs aren't showing up on here, but oh, we're going to 2.7 on your guide. This just gives you basically the list of definitions as far as what you need to be doing if you're gonna be the fiduciary versus the functionary. And again, if you think about the lawsuits going on now, this is where a lot of the issues are. A lot of people were operating out of the left column, but they wanted to be paid like they're in the right column. So you can see the very last, minimally paid or highly paid. If you're doing a great job and really looking out for the best interest of your clients, they have no problem paying you. It's an investment. Sure.
Let's say like, so let's say when he do on Facebook, so like, hey, Dad, I wanna buy a house real soon, then they give you a little bit of information. I know my credit score is like 710, that's all they give you right there, boom. So you meet with them. What I wanna know is, how much more information are you gathering before you put them on the phone with let's say Scott saying available? How much more information are you gathering before you put them in the hands of the loan? I don't waste your time and explain like, yeah, I got a 710 credit score there and job fired, but she making $10,000. So like, how much more information do you gather before you?
Right. What's your timeline? What are you looking for? What's important to you? But obviously they want to buy a house. So what's important to them in that? That's where I would dive in on. Because again, if they're in a lease for 11 more months, it may not be time yet. But maybe you're like, anytime people bring their credit score up early in a conversation without being asked, I'm just like, that's weird. So in that case, I might say, let's double check that information. So I put them in contact just to make sure what they're saying is right.
So with that, like, and I'm sure we'll all have this, but a client that comes to you, if they want a $300,000 house, and you kind of talked about the financials, and in your head, you're like, there's absolutely no way you'd ever qualify for that. How do you tell them that or direct there? Would you just send them to the loan officer and have them break their heart and then they?
I would, just because again, they'll be able to, instead of you just making the assumption, like you'll have a good feel that they won't, but by sending it to them now, it's like, it's reality. It's not just a theoretical anymore. So I definitely would. Anything money wise, I would send it to them.
And I would say, just to add, like, be bold enough to like ask those questions, because it's kind of like pre-qualifying. So, I done had to have at least, I don't know, about 3 or 4 of those come to Jesus talks, with people like around how much you make a month. I'll start off with that, because they think that question is just you're helping them to get a house. But I'm thinking like, I'm pre-qualifying to see if you can even get a house, to see if I should even, send you to Scott or Alyssa or whoever. So, but you gotta know that first before you waste a lot of your time. And I mean, you still cultivate it, you know what I'm saying? But it's kind of like you might have to put them a little bit further down the line as far as like, give them homework. So.
And why I like sending them to Scott, kind of what they will give them homework as well.
Yeah.
And this is where not every lender's created the same. You know, like a Chase is, they're not gonna do any coaching, they're like, if you can put 20% down conventional, they're good. But there's a lot of them that are like, well, you know, we're willing to roll the dice, like Diamond takes on a little bit more riskier clients. But what's nice about quite a few lenders, they do a lot of coaching, like, well, if you can't do this right now, here's what you should do. Pay this off, and they'll give you almost like a systematic, like, if you pay these debts off in this order and come back in 3 months, you should be good to go. So they'll walk away with a whole list of homework from them. So not only can you give them homework, but the lender can. So we always look at it like, okay, maybe it's not right now, but when are they ready? Who cares if it's 2 years from now? Like, you don't want to take on the homework of like figuring out what they should do. That's what the lender can do.
Stephanie's good at that with Betty and Will too, like she's good at giving like homework what to do when you put them in their systems.
Yeah. Yep. So the last one or 2.12, this is, again, I don't know why it's not showing up here now, but daily success system. Yeah. So 10 conversations every day. Could be sphere, could be not sphere. 10 contacts added, 10 handwritten notes, and then engage on social media. What I always say here is don't post and goes. So don't put out a post there and then people are talking in the comments and you're not giving feedback. But add those contacts to your database. Follow up with them. Every single day. And it may sound like a lot with 10 conversations a day, but as time goes on, that's gonna be, right now, maybe a lot of people you've not talked to. Over time, it's gonna be more follow-up. You're always gonna be meeting new people. But you'll get to a point where maybe 70% of your conversations are follow-up. 30% are new people. We're here in the beginning, it might be 100% new people. And that's fine, but you gotta work your way to where those, you got enough people to follow up. All right, any questions before we wrap up? All right, guys, well, thank you. Like I said, next Monday, no night, since we'll be closed as an office for Martin Luther King Day. But 2 weeks from today, we'll be back at it. Script and role play every day this week. Make sure you come out for that as well. And then team meeting tomorrow.